Hello, everybody. So we're going to finish up Module 1 right now. We're on Lesson 1.3, Absolute Value. We're in the 6th grade Go Math middle school textbook, and we're on page 19. So the essential question that you should be able to explain is, how do you find and use absolute value? So what is absolute value? The absolute value of a number is the number's distance from zero on a number line. For example, the absolute value of -3 is 3 because -3 is 3 units from 0. The absolute value of -3 is written absolute value -3. So these symbols like this represent absolute value. All right. This by itself is not absolute value. This is just -3. But when you put these symbols around it, that means they want the absolute value of -3. And that's simply how far away from 0. Okay. And it's just 3 units from 0. Okay. Because absolute value represents a distance, it is always non-negative. Now, you notice it didn't say is always positive because you got to count for 0. Okay. 0 is neither positive nor negative. But the absolute value of 0 is 0. So 0 is not negative, is it? Okay. All right, graph the following numbers on the number line. Then use your number line to find each absolute value. So -7, that would be right there. 5 would be right there. 7 would be to the right of 5. -2 would be to the left of 0. 4 would be to the right of 0 before 5. And -4 would be to the left of -2. So then, what's the absolute value of -7? How far away from 0 is 7? 1, 2, sorry. How many units away from 0 is -7? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, did I have to count that? No, it's going to be whatever that value is in there, but 7 units. Okay, B, the absolute value of 5. We know that the absolute value always has to be a non-negative number. So we never would write negative for here for an absolute value. So it's just 5. The distance 5 is away from 0 is 5 units. The absolute value of 7 is 7 units from 0. The absolute value of -2. How many units away from 0 is -2? 2. Okay, and I can't say the absolute value is -2. They want to know what the absolute value of -2 is. It is not -2, it's 2. The absolute value of 4 is 4. And the absolute value of -4 is also 4. Okay, these are both just 4 units from 0. All right, so which pairs of numbers have the same absolute value? Well, absolute value -7 and 7. And the absolute values 4 and -4. How are these numbers related? Well, they're opposites. 4 and -4 are opposites. -7 and 7 are opposites. So their distance away from 0 is the same. All right, number 2. Negative numbers are less than positive numbers. We know that. Does this mean that the absolute value of a negative number must be less than the absolute value of a positive number? and explain. No, no, that's not true. Okay, so absolute value represents a distance. So -4 is less than 2, right? But the absolute value of 4 is greater than the absolute value of 2. Okay, so that's not true that the negative number must be less than the absolute value of a positive number. Okay, we just proved that. The absolute value of the negative number 4 is more than the absolute value of a positive number. And the reason that is because you're just talking about the distance away from 0. All right, page 20. All right, in real world situations, you may choose to describe values using either negative numbers or the absolute values of those numbers, depending on the wording you're using. For example, if you have a balance of negative $35 in the account, we can, instead of using negative, we can just say it has a debt of $35. The debt, the word debt, represents that this is a minus. Okay. Example 1. Jack uses his online music store gift card to buy an album of songs by his favorite band. Find the negative number that represents the change in the balance on Jake's card after his purchase. Explain how absolute value would be used to express that number in this situation. So his account balance is $25. That's not a that's not a negative number. But he bought the album for $10. That would be represented by a negative number. Okay. And so the negative 10, the balance decreased by 10. So we'd use a negative number. And the balance changed by minus $10. So if we put that on the number line, we see that negative 10 is 10 units from 0. So the absolute value of negative 10 is 10. And so the balance of his card decreased by $10. So I can represent it still as a non-negative number, but using words to describe the situation. All right, so number 3. Must the absolute value of a number always be positive? That's a tricky one, right? We talked about that in the sense that we said absolute value of a number must always be non-negative because we have to account for what number? 0. Okay, so the absolute value of 0 is neither positive or negative. So the absolute value of 0 doesn't have to be positive. So we could say the absolute value of all numbers except 0 must be positive. Okay. So with that exception, that's true. All right, page 21. The temperature at night reached negative 13 degrees. Write an equivalent statement about the temperature using the absolute value of the number. So basically, we know that the absolute value of negative 13 is 13. A negative means in temperature below 0, right? So we would say the temperature (13 degrees Fahrenheit) below 0. All right, find the absolute value. Negative 12 is just 12 units away from 0. 91, absolute value of 91 is 91 units away from 0. The absolute value of negative 55 is 55 units away from 0. The absolute value of 0 is 0. The absolute value of 88, 88 units away from 0. And the absolute value of 1 is 1. Okay. All right, how about activity 2? Comparing absolute values. All right, Maria, Susan, George, and Antonio are playing a game on their smartphones. In order to stay in the game, a player has to achieve a positive number of energy points. The points needed are shown. All right, so here, in order to be positive, this person needs 20 points. So we could say maybe they're like at negative 19. This person needs 25, so we could say maybe they're at negative 24. This one needs 30, so they'd probably be at like negative 29. And here, this person needs 45. So they're probably at like negative 46 or something like that. I'm sorry, negative 44 or something like that. All right, so here's some clues. When you have finished, you will have enough clues to match each smartphone to the correct person. Okay, so when a player needs a positive number of points, it means that the player's point total is negative. Okay, and we kind of just talked about that. So Maria's point total is less than negative 30, meaning she needs more than 30 points. So this has to be hers, because a number less than 30 would be to the left of 30. So that could be like negative 31, negative 32, so on. These numbers are less than 30. So if we said you need 30, but her number is less than 30, let's say the smallest it could be would be negative 31. Well, if we added 30 to that, she'd still be at negative 1. So this one has to be Maria. So does Maria need more than 30 points or fewer than 30? She needs more than 30. All right, Susan's point total is greater than negative 25. So that could be negative 24, negative 23, negative 22, so on, right? Her point total is greater than negative 25. Does she need more than 25 points or fewer than 25 points? Well, if she got 24 points, she'd be at 0. So fewer than 25 points. George's point total is 5 less than Susan's. Does George need more points than Susan or fewer? He's going to need more, right? He has less points than Susan, so he's going to need more points. And Antonio needs 15 points fewer than Maria needs. Is Antonio's point total greater than or less than Maria's point total? Okay, so if he needs less points to be positive, that means he has more points than Maria. So his totals are greater than. All right, and E. Write each person's name underneath his or her smartphone. All right, so more than 30 points. Well, the biggest one would have to be needing 45 points, Maria. All right, who needs fewer than 25 points? Susan. So Susan would probably be right here, needing 20 points. Okay, George needs more points than Susan. And it says Antonio needs 15 fewer points. Well, what's 15 minus 45? 30. So Antonio goes here. Right? All right, let's look at page 22. Use absolute value to describe the relationship between a point total and the points needed. All right, so in other words, if the number of points needed is the absolute value of the point total, if somebody was at negative 25, the absolute value would be 25. That's how many they need in order not to be negative. All right, let's continue. If a number is blank, then the number is less than its absolute value. It's negative. If a number is negative, then the numbers is less than its absolute value. Right, 2A. If Ryan pays his car insurance for the year in full, he'll get a credit of $28. If he chooses to pay a monthly premium, he'll pay a $10 late fee for any month that the payment is late. Which of these values could be represented with a negative number? And explain. Well, negative 10, right? Explain. Negative 10 is a fee or a change of negative 10. Of minus $10. All right, use the number line to find the absolute value of your answer from part A. So we want the absolute value of negative 10. Negative 10 is 10 units from 0. 3. Leo, Gabriel, Sanea, and Tomas are playing a video game. Their scores are described in the table below. Leo has less than 1,000 points. Less than negative 1,000 points. So it would be like negative 101, negative 102, so on. Gabriella has 20 more points than Leo. So she's like less than negative 80. And Sanea is 50 points less than Leo. So that would be like minus 150 points. Okay, so let's look at these clues. 2A. 3A. Leo wants to earn enough points to have a positive score. Does he need to earn more than 100 points or less than 100 points? More. Gabrielle wants to earn enough points to not have a negative score. Does she need to earn more points than Leo or fewer? Well, she's 20 points greater, so she can score fewer than 100. She can definitely score fewer than Leo. And Snea wants to earn enough points to have a higher score than Leo. Does she need to earn more than 50 points or fewer than 50 points? Well, she's going to have to score more than 50 points. If she's already 50 points less, she's going to have to score more than 50 points to be better than him. All right, 4. When is the absolute value of a number equal to the number? Well, when it's 0 or a positive number, right? When the number is 0 or positive. Absolute value of 1 is 1. Absolute value of 2 is 2. Absolute value of 3 is 3. So they match. The absolute value of 0 is 0. All right, 23. Number 5. Jacob earned $80 babysitting and deposited the money into his savings account. The next week, he took $85 out of his savings account to buy video games. Use integers to describe the weekly changes in Jacob's savings account balance. All right, well, the first one was he gained $80, right? So that's a plus $80. So we could say balance first week changed by $80. The balance in week 2 changed by minus $85. Sarah's savings account balance changed by negative $34 one week and by negative $67 the next week. Which amount represents the greater change? Well, which one's further from 0? 67, right? 7. Bertrand collects movie posters. The number of movie posters in his collection changes each month as he buys and sells. The table shows how many posters he bought or sold in the given months. So if you sell 20, you're losing that from your collection. Okay, so your collection total has to go down. If you buy more, you're going to add that to your collection. So February and March, he's adding to his collection. And in January and April, he's decreasing from his total. So which months have changes that can be represented by positive numbers? February and March. Which months can be represented by negative numbers? January and April would be negative months. And we'll go ahead and add positive months in front of February and March. Positive months, February and March. January and April are negative months. Okay. Selling would represent decreases or negatives. And buying would represent adding or positive. According to the table, in which month did the size of Bertrand's poster collection change the most? Well, which one has the largest absolute value? 20, 12, 22, 28. 28. April minus 28 equals 28. Okay. Okay, the reason it has the largest absolute value is it's the furthest from zero. Right, number 8. Death Valley has an elevation of negative 282 feet relative to sea level. Explain how to use absolute value to describe the elevation of Death Valley as a positive integer. All right, so Death Valley is 282 feet, right? The absolute value of negative 282 is 282. 282 feet above or below sea level? Below, because the number is negative. So we can write it an equivalent statement by saying Death Valley is 282 feet below sea level. All right, number 9. All right, Lisa and Alice are playing a game. Each player either receives or has to pay play money based on the results of the spin. The table lists how much a player receives or pays for various spins. All right, so pay, that would be a positive. I'm sorry, pay would be a negative. If you receive, it's a positive. You're adding pay, negative, receive, positive, pay, negative. All right, so express each amount in the table as a positive or a negative number. All right, so negative 5, 4, negative 1, 3, negative 2. Describe the change to Lisa's amount of money when the spinner lands on red. She's going to have a loss or a change of minus $5. Anytime she spins red, she's going to lose $5. All right, 11, 10. Sam and Freda both paid their credit card bills in full. Each person made returns that resulted in credits to their accounts. So that means you bought a shirt, yeah, I really didn't like it. So you took it back to the store and the store credits that amount of the shirt to your credit card. So Sam's new balance is negative 36 and Freda's is negative 42. Which person has more money credited to his or her card? Which one has the greater absolute value? Which one had more, in a sense, put back on their card or back into their account? Well, 42. So Freda. She was credited something worth $42 and Sam's was worth $36. All right, number 11. Emily spent $55 from her savings on a new dress. Explain how to describe the change in Emily's savings balance in two different ways. Well, I could say negative $55, or I could say the balance is $55 lower than before buying the dress. All right, 12. Can two different numbers have the same absolute value? Sure. Give an example. Okay, yes. Absolute value of 7 and the absolute value of negative 7. 7 and negative 7 are not the same numbers. They're different, right? So those are two different numbers, but they have the same absolute value. Does the opposite of the absolute value of -4 equal the absolute value of the opposite of -4? Well, no. So the absolute value of -4 is 4, which means it's -4. And the absolute value of -4 is 4. So -4 does not equal 4. And finally, 14. Angelique says that finding the absolute value of a number is the same as finding the opposite of the number. For example, the absolute value of -5 is 5. Well, no, because what if I said the absolute value of 5? The absolute value is not a negative. So, no. Okay. So, no. If anything that we get out of this lesson is that absolute value is never a negative value. It's always expressed as a non negative. It can be 0 or a positive distance, but it can't be negative. All right. So that's it for Module 1. In Module 2, we'll start reviewing greatest common factor and least common multiple. So until then, I'll see you soon.